Can't hear you guys.
Oh, you did touch it, the mute button.
Much better, thank you.
You did touch it.
Okay.
Can we do check-in once more?
Yeah, we'll go around and do the roll once more. Has anybody heard anything yet?
No, not until now.
Okay, so when we began, I just noted, some of you may be able to see it, but we're physically present in the entertainment building. The board meeting is coming to you from the new wing where the board office or the board room is. And thanking Michael and Brittany and the entire staff for getting this ready for us. It's pretty cool, and hope folks come check it out next time you're around. Chris, you want to do the roll one more time?
Sure. Patrick,
Here.
Earl's absent today. Dan,
Here.
Tom,
Here.
Joel, here. Arthur, Alana,
Here.
Alex, here. Zach,
Here.
Al.
Still here.
Okay, our first order of business is approval of the minutes of the December 28th, 2022 meeting. They're tab 1 in your board book, board members. Anybody have any questions?
The only thing I had is I was in person. So it's all right now.
Okay, any other changes? Hearing none, can I get a motion to approve?
Aye.
So moved. Any second?
My second.
Great. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed, recusals, abstentions? Motion passes. All right. Update on the Entertainium project. Chris, I'll leave it to you to give us the announcement of the delivery date of our gym equipment currently, which will be a watershed moment and help us build back into when we'll be able to get the building open.
Yeah, so it looks like we've been in touch with Advantage this week. It looks like we have a delivery date of March 1st, which is, I think, a little later than we were hoping, but it sounds like they're waiting the equipment. They can't deliver equipment they don't have. Once they get it, they'll deliver it. And if that works with you, March 1st is great. It should be set and ready to go.
So it would look like if that date holds, March 1st for delivery of the gym equipment, and thanks Chris and all those who led the effort to get that deal done. If that date holds, we'll probably have a couple of days where things will need to be tested, but assuming all of the contracting is done and we have our certificate of occupancy, most importantly, then we'll be able to be open early part of March. Okay, next is a quote for the flooring. This is tab 2 in your board book, board members. Michael, you want to maybe introduce this? Or Brittany? I guess Brittany sent it along.
I don't know what we're looking at. I don't have.
The flooring quote.
This is the flooring quote for the lower level west wing.
Well, that's yours, Brett.
Let me get it open. Okay, so the first one is the flooring quote for the west wing. This is just the flooring. Last board meeting, I was going to send around the quote, and here's the quote.
Okay. Questions?
It does not include installation.
Do we kind of have an estimate of what that might be?
I can tell you what it costs to install it over here.
Okay.
Same square footage.
Probably not, because they did upstairs and downstairs here.
So it'll be less, right?
So,
Well, if we could just break it down by square foot, then it should be
yeah.
pretty damn close.
So just to clarify, when we did the budgeting to finish the project back earlier in the fall, I'm looking at this file and it said we had $10,000 budgeted for carpet installation in the east and west areas. Is that money still there, or are we talking about a different piece of the facility?
That $10,000 was for the other carpet.
The 10,000 was for what?
The other carpet, right?
That was for installation of this. There was supposed to be enough carpet to do everything, but with the changes, so there should be enough left there.
Right, I think I'm asking about kind of the budgeted funds that are available. So was the 5,200, and then again, last time we don't have a quote in front of us for installation, but you were ballparking it at about 10,000.
Is what we were quoted for this. So my guess, I
That's
guess
extras.
what I think what Chris is trying to say is, if they didn't
complete the installation as quoted, is the additional footage for the installation included in the original quote? Or would it be covered?
That's additional installation.
Right, that's actually,
It's
I'm
not,
asking where, I'm sort of trying to zero in on where in the assessment budget we can, or which envelopes in the original assessment budget we can draw from to fund this.
it's not funded.
How much was in the contingency piece?
26,000.
So it would come from there essentially, correct?
Well, so we have 26,000 in the contingency looking at this original piece. And then we also had $109,000 budgeted originally for the gym equipment. The gym leases that were, or the budget that we approved for the gym was about 80,000. So we also have, I think, some additional funds that we could draw on from that envelope.
But that did not include a Smith machine,
So I think we agreed to table Smith for 3 to 6 months.
right? So you want to have that money in case you do want to purchase that.
Sure. So we could say, we could leave, say, we could leave as much as you want, but like,
Well, if we had 109, sorry to interrupt, if we had 109 budgeted for the gym equipment, we spent 80, that's a 29 difference plus the 26 in contingency, right? That's 55.
Yeah.
So if this is 5, then
That's based off of the lease over 5 years.
It would essentially be 10, right? Because you could dump or install, because we don't have.
Install for this, for the upper and lower, which was 325 yards, was $2,275. And then to install the cove base, which was 1,080 foot of cove base, it was $1,080.
so we're probably looking at like basically doubling our money to install, more or less, like 5,000 for equipment, 5,000 for the carpet, 5,000 for installation, more or less.
Did you need the carpet to open, so?
We have the carpet.
Yeah, but you need it installed,
We need it installed.
so I think you gotta.
No, I don't
we don't have this carpet.
I don't think she said 5,000, right?
To
Said,
install over here,
yeah,
it was 325 yards, it was $2,275 to install.
So
okay, so
It'd be a little
$2,300 plus the cove, the cost of the installation of the cove.
Right, and again, that was over here, so you.
And this is much more square footage than over there,
so we're looking at roughly what, 7,500,
Mhm.
call it all in.
all in, right?
Of an additional previously unallocated item to get the job finished.
All of that's unallocated? We didn't
Yes.
have any plan for any of that, okay.
I guess actually maybe that's a question you can ask. So we had a contingency of $26,000. Are there other, looking at the original assessment, are there other line items in that original assessment budget that have run over and bled into that contingency? Or do we still have the 26,000?
Right now, you still have it, but you're gonna be bleeding over. There are things that are gonna go over like this. We have, the heating still has to be done.
We have everything with the floor.
Right. I'm just
Yeah.
thinking, just making sure the number we're starting with is actually the number.
Cleaning,
Right, so I think we should not look at this issue in isolation of the bigger issue.
right.
I think we need to have a better understanding of everything because we have to make some hard decisions.
I agree with Alana. That's why I raised this in the email earlier this week. Let's make all these hard decisions today. Let's be done. You mentioned earlier, we want to open this up in the beginning of March. So let's look at, before we make a decision on the carpet, let's look at everything.
Right.
Total it up, see where where we're at money-wise, where we could pull funds.
Great. I like that idea.
And then go back and make a decision on each item.
So the next item then we have at least is, and I wasn't clear if these are competing quotes or quotes for two different scopes of work. One is Harrier, the other is Serve Pro, and these are for cleaning. So what
They were competing.
they are competing, so it's the exact same scope of work, right? So Harrio's quote was 4,300 plus tax.
So it was 65.
Surf Pro was 16,500. Is there any reason other than just the name brand?
Just, there was no reason, just that, I'm assuming it's the name brand and more people.
Okay.
Yeah, maybe more people coming in. Yeah. I mean, there's essentially, they're doing the same thing. They're wiping windows, dust, cleaning the floor. So there's a big difference there.
Four times the cost is a huge difference, but
Yeah.
the only thing that I question, again, going back to the Harry O's quote, just said sweeping and mopping the floor.
Well, he's bringing his,
Same movie.
floor machine.
Oh, he does have that. That was what I asked. Okay, so it's just not a,
He does most of the commercial stores in the area.
Yeah, and we supply cleaning supplies and equipment.
Windows alone.
Just to, I think, Hal, keep it in mind, your earlier idea to keep this. So Michael, you said for the painting the floor, that the epoxy quote, the original epoxy quote included cleaning. If we were going to pursue epoxy for the floor instead of paint, would we still need to do a separate cleaning on top of that?
Well, you would still need the windows, the second floor, the structure. I mean, you probably wouldn't have to do the floor.
If we're good, so, you said coat base,
Mhm,
1,200 for coat base.
mhm.
Where is the coat base for the other room?
I believe it's in the other room.
It's there.
Let's see.
It's not an extra purchase,
Yeah.
not something we're just
Just
gonna.
install.
Sticking with this cleaning quote, was this allocated within the assessment budget?
No.
So that's new,
Above and beyond.
new expense.
We're at
Okay.
11.7.
Right.
Between those two things,
Okay.
if you take the lower of the two.
Yeah, I would assume that there's no reason not to go with the lower quote. And Dan, I'm sorry, what were you mentioning? 1,200 for what?
She said the coat base, which is the black strip across the bottom, as being $1,200 for installation in the other room. I was making sure we even had the material,
Okay, we have the material, but there's a $1,200.
but we don't have the
Unallocated.
carpet.
well, 1,200 was to install it in here, which is much more square footage than what we're
Just
doing
making sure we had the material.
over there,
Okay,
or linear footage.
so are we talking about an additional $1,000 line item, or that's something that was previously allocated?
Well, she said it was 5,200 for the carpet, 2,500-ish for the install. As just a guess.
Oh, I see. Okay, so I'm ballparking for this exercise,
7,500.
7,500 for the flooring, but that includes what you were just talking about.
Mhm.
Okay, got it. Now, any other previously unallocated items that we need to get built finished?
Nothing with the
Heat.
heating and anything?
Well, this is up and running, but.
Is the heating your office working? Yeah.
Just on the side.
So we had about 11,000 budgeted for painting the floor in the main area. So I mean, we're still going around and around on how to finish that floor. If we make a choice that goes above that 11 number, then we're gonna have an overage there too.
So going back to our minutes from the previous meeting. Main entrance, basketball court, issues about the fitness center, the west wing, east wing, and then when there were some general questions, issues about the fitness center, these are all things that we need to, bring home.
Right.
So if we want to just work off of last month's meeting minutes, let's use that as a guide and tackle each item.
Okay. All right, we decided on the flooring for the main entrance, right? Carpet or paint? Or did we not?
No,
No, that
No.
was what Brittany, you guys, I believe are going to do a email vote.
Okay,
On once she got the price or the quote.
so the quote that we were looking at
No.
for roughly 5,000, is
That is
that,
not the
that
entrance.
is not the entrance. Do we have that quote? Sorry,
No.
we don't.
But you were saying,
He can measure it, but I didn't know what the plan was, so I can ask
But-
him to come.
at the last meeting, you were saying that 5,200 should buy enough carpet to cover the main entrance. Not including installation, but that 5,200 purchase should
so we
cover
think,
materials.
so we think we have enough carpet for, okay,
So then we would have to pay for install.
right, which I think we could estimate based on square footage.
You're sure that that's enough to cover?
I am not sure.
When I talked to Sal, he said that it was just for
Well, you hope,
the base floor on the west wing.
That entry is what, probably 14 by 20?
Why don't we peg a high number for installation so we can work conservatively and we can get the quote, but like, why don't we just peg a higher number? And that's what we would do in the face of uncertainty, right? And then we can move forward. Does
Okay,
that make sense?
Agreed.
375 square feet, we'll say. What's the carpet tile we ordered for the other rooms? How many square feet?
all right, well, Brittany works on that. We're agreed on carpet over paint, because that seems to be one of the decisions we need to make, right? Okay.
30 bundles of carpet tile.
We have on here, following Hal's suggestion, following the minutes from the last meeting, take delivery of the elevator during the last week of December. That hasn't occurred.
that has not.
Given expectation of when that will be.
We're waiting on the electrical inspection.
Access system and
But
fire
is
alarms?
there any cost involved still that we haven't accounted for with taking delivery?
No.
Okay.
Good question. All right, access system and fire alarms, those were being worked on.
Those are being worked on. They've been in and out.
Okay, and then I guess same question, any costs associated with that?
Not yet.
Not yet, but are there any? coming?
They're figured in with the
Okay.
IT stuff.
Great. Minor electrical work like electrical covers remains. Still an ongoing.
It's an ongoing, one thing, guys, too, each addition is a separate building. So it's got to all fit together.
Is the minor electrical work, that's still on budget? That's still, okay.
Okay, going on to the basketball court piece of this. First and second floors need cleaning. That is the Harriers versus Servpro quotes that we just looked at. I think we resolved that part of it. Flooring needs to be painted and striped. Let's talk about that in a second. Cove base needs to be installed on the floor.
That's part of the 52.
And that's that we just talked about. All right, so coming back to the flooring for the basketball court, there's still the question of painting and when, and I mean, at this point, are we,
Was the paint ordered? Because we said, I think we have in the minutes that it was supposed to be, so we don't have an
We don't
estimate.
have any place to store.
No,
it.
we have,
So-
I gave him the estimate
So
like
we
3 months
haven't,
ago.
so that's still good.
I gave you the
3
link.
months ago.
I gave him the link.
Yeah.
To the card.
And
ready
that
to
was, a
purchase.
piece. Okay.
What was the original estimate?
4,000 and change, I think it was.
No, for pop. That was.
80 Well, it had different top of the line and then medium, and then there was one that was a tail light guarantee. I think the tail light guarantee got down to like 14,000. I'm waiting on Dennis to.
So the 14,000, just, did that
Did you
include,
get knocked down? I'm sorry.
It includes prep for the floor base, that's it.
okay, and did it also include lining or striping?
We were talking about
Yes.
bringing a professional.
No.
Oh, it did? We were talking about bringing a
For the
professional.
epoxy?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah,
That price did not include striking.
okay.
So the
If I remember,
the epoxy, just trying to ask, does it include the material installation and striping?
Yes.
Okay, so the base estimate there's, the lowest estimate there's 14.
But that estimate is from 2 years ago or 2.5 years ago when you did the pool. The epoxy at the pool, so.
so maybe 13.
And is that a base, is that the baseline of the pool? Is
Entry.
that the same epoxy we were talking about here?
Well, that epoxy at the pool has a little grit in it.
Right.
This wouldn't have as much grit in it. And I don't believe you would be doing the flake either. That epoxy also had flake in it.
I mean, in the original assessment budget, we had $11,000 budgeted to do the floors all in.
And that was with court paint.
Right. just saying that's the amount of money available for that project before we have to start drawing from other envelopes to finish the.
Did we ever price out the painting of the lines, since there was a general consensus that the board was gonna,
It was on hold.
Holly was gonna paint the lines? Okay.
Carpet, just a rough guess without even going over there and do final measurements, overestimated square footage would be $2,000 for the carpet itself.
For which part?
The entry.
2,000, you said?
That's just
Just
the part.
guessing, doing
Okay.
figures, dividing.
Just
That's fine.
overestimated.
That's fine.
$375.
We're trying to get, yeah, we're trying to get.
The entrance versus.
So then-
I think we're all in agreement. on that.
So painting the court, the cost of that, you said the materials about 5,000 or 4,000? And that's well within our $11,000 budget.
That was the
Plus the
estimate I gave to you, right?
Plus the striping, which,
Was it?
sorry,
We can't hear you guys. You're frozen. It says your network bandwidth is low.
Can't hear you.
If we can't hear them, they may not be able to hear us.
So we ought to have the meeting until, without them.
I'm gonna call one.
We're still not getting a clear signal, fellows.
The people on this end can't hear what's going on and can't see the board. Okay, I know, but then everybody's saying they can't hear or see you. But it said, yeah, just now, and it said the bandwidth was low.
Right, because what happened is the line dropped, so it should be coming back, I would think. So let's just give it a minute or two.
All right, just let them know if there's any question. If you want to call me back.
Do you hear me over the line? Do you hear, but, hold on, do you hear me over the speaker, on the speaker? No, okay, yes, yeah, so they don't hear us, guys.
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
Okay.
So that's progress.
We just read it in the chat, but apologizes for the practical difficulties. That it basically says we can only do what we can do.
I can't get into Zoom. An unknown error occurred in Zoom world.
404122, whatever that.
Did you get back in or?
Yeah,
I'm not.
are you able to write a note down?
Take control.
So actually, there's Zoom.
That's an internet issue.
Yes.
Have you guys got an alternate Zoom number that works better?
Put in there, it's not the Zoom, it's the internet. Servers.
So we could keep going here, or we could move to the bus.
Well,
Okay.
if we move to the clubhouse, we have to take the owl with us.
Yeah, we'll just keep going, see if we can. Just one more minute pause, if I'm able to get in to the Zoom. Something in chat. No cell service to run this off the phone either.
They know all about it.
We're back on.
All right, it's coming up.
We're back on and live.
Do you hear us now?
Yeah, but your screen is frozen.
Well, we're not moving.
All right, everybody, if you can. We're having an internet ability issue. It's a spec problem as opposed to Zoom, so we're just gonna plow ahead and hope for the best. What else we can do? All right, where were we?
We're still
Okay,
talking about
we're
floor.
painting the floor in the gym, and I was about to ask how much did we think it would cost to have, say, polio or
For the flooring. So we can do this.
whatever the main.
Or do we want to do that?
We just want to get it done. I mean, it seems like we're having this.
We don't even have the material.
No.
I would suggest to get even and see what that looks like. And we can make a decision, but let's know what that looks like.
But that
See what it costs to paint.
that would have to come out of the balance of
So-
11,000, or it would.
I mean, let's look at this.
We're just keep spending here, guys.
Yeah,
This spending has to.
but also let's look at it realistically. We're looking at, I think you said $5,000 just for the paint for the floor. Another couple of grand for the striping paint, just for the material, right? Always got to, no matter what, has to do the striping. So
That was included in our initial estimate.
it's still, we're still looking at a minimum of $10,000.
I'd also just suggest,
If we're doing the labor, it's a minimum of 10,000. And then refresh my memory, what was your quote on an epoxy to get it done? It was 14? I understand it's a little dated, it's
Yeah, it's
stale.
very dated, but mine was these.
I mean, yeah, but it's, I hear what you're saying, but it's designed for basic people to be able to install. When I initially sent out the manufacturer specs, I mean, this is kind of this is why they do that. I just wanna go ahead and about another
Well,
5,000.
let me ask you this question. Can we get a show of hands right now, the board members, who would be willing to do this? I'm not doing it.
I'm still willing,
Okay, so if you three guys can tackle that job.
but that shouldn't be the exclusion of
No, I'm just
getting
saying,
it professionally done. I mean, that would
I'm
be
just
fine.
saying, power, and power, that it's a, you know, so.
can I just ask that
It
we,
goes down like driveways, you literally just squeeze your.
can I just ask that we, this is like the blind leading the blind, we're working with old quotes or no quotes. Why don't we just get a quote from Holly on what the full ticket would be, and then we can look at it. I mean, we have about $55,000, that was designed for, well, 26 of it was designed for this. That's what a contingency is for. Like, why don't we actually get updated information on what the cost is and make an informed decision at that point? And
We could always not do it. We don't have to like, we gotta go.
I think we just need to identify the areas that we need quotes on. We need to solidify what the heating, the HVAC, what's left there. So, whether committee or maybe just who's gonna work with Michael this week to get those the quotes, and present them all back as a package. So we have, the striping is the one thing we need, correct? We need to confirm the carpet and install price for the entryway. We need to confirm what's left in the install for the other side, because we know we have the order. And then what do we have left from us, which is HVAC, I'm assuming, correct?
I think that's,
And then we can put.
I like your thinking.
Mhm.
I just think looking back at minutes from last month, there were many other things.
So let's get that list.
Exactly. And yeah, rather than maybe, because we don't have, right, we need another session. We need to set a deadline when we could have all these decisions made, whatever those decisions might be, because if we want to open this building, we can't keep kicking this down the road till the next month's meeting.
When we were drawing and drafting the assessment, we made it really clear that these are the action items that are needed to complete the building and get everything done operational. And right now, we're talking about adding carpet, adding install, adding cleaning, above and beyond what was drafted. And we're still talking about adding other things too.
And what happens, guys, as we go along, things change. That we have no control. When we originally ordered the carpet, you know how you go up in the second floor in the pool, and they're like that. You can look down. That's what was supposed to be done on the other side of this building. So that was supposed to be all open. That's where the carpet went, was up there, because it was figured out to do the whole area in carpet, and things changed. So that floor was added to take away that balcony type area. And that's where your carpet went. So things are going to change as we keep moving along, and we don't have a lot of control.
Who's making these changes? Because the changes just incurred $7,500. I mean, that's an expense, because we're $5,200 for the carpet, $2,500 probably for an install. I mean, $7,500 what Patrick laid out there. So
Well, Patrick laid it out. then
if
it's
we're,
good.
if we're looking at $7,500 in changes, and then we just keep making changes and adding to the price, I mean, at some point, we have to be.
I suggest that I think I suggest that we follow Hal's original suggestion, which is work through the minutes from last time and figure out what the remaining unknowns are. And then we also agree that we need to set a date to hold ourselves accountable to actually make these decisions. I mean, if we can get the remaining unknowns down below about $50,000, then it's really.
Then we're okay.
So why don't we make sure that we figure out the remaining costs?
And this week I will work with Michael to make sure that we got quotes, that they're fresh quotes, that we have everything that we need, and we can hopefully make this decision by email by the end of the week.
So we need,
Sooner the better.
we need a quote for the entry, the wings.
For the materials and install for the floor of the entrance.
Mhm.
We need a quote for the.
We haven't ordered the materials though yet, right?
We haven't ordered them, but we allocated for them.
Okay.
We order this.
Well, not necessarily, because we may decide to add to your list of things to do. Let's get an updated quote on an epoxy.
Okay.
I was just gonna say that again, that the painting quote at this point is pretty old too. It was just gonna make that's where it's headed. That's a 3-month-old quote. Make sure the price of paint is still what the price of paint is.
I mean, I was under the impression as of the last meeting, we
Hello, hello, hello. Nothing happening.
It says the board left.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, it is great, although this is a very painful call, must say. It almost seems ironic that they got disconnected.
Well, everything worked properly in the clubhouse. Why, they must have a wiring problem or some other issue in their new building.
There's a chance that they're either on 2G or 5G and it's not reaching from its sending point. The issue is they probably need a booster.
I just heard from Alan Shantz, and he said that they know what's going on, and it's a spectrum issue, and they've been trying to fix it all along. So they didn't purposely log off. They are
Yeah,
trying to fix
Joel
this.
Cohen just sent me the same information.
Okay.
So we can have a party. Want me to give me I'll give the Lakes report now.
Yeah, it seems like we might be more informed about what's going on than them. To be honest.
Well, this whole thing caught me off guard because it's usually the third Sunday falls after the third Thursday. So I didn't send my reports in on time. I sent it to the individuals Thursday night.
Yeah, and I didn't get an email for this call. I only saw it on Facebook, but I get
No,
email together.
I got it. I got it in my wife.
You got the email.
Hello?
It's like
We're
they're
live.
back without visual.
Your internet connection is
Why don't we get a picture?
I think Hal Simon's right on. Get this thing closed off with what you got. Open up the building, worry about everything else later.
Unless by opening it up, you're gonna damage the floors or some other part of the building where we haven't done the
I'll
proper
close
job.
off the areas that it's not ready to open.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
You know, before the building was up, I said, you have to have your cleaning and maintenance plan ahead. You need a building superintendent plan, okay, for management of the building on a daily basis and access control. I put that forward in when David Feller was writing up the plan. My answer back was, it's too early. Well, here we are, a month from startup, and it's
They're not,
still too early.
they're not opening in March.
We have the same thing here in Florida. They have.
You've been muted. Richard, you're muted.
Working and they can hear me.
Do we know if they're still meeting?
What?
Can anybody hear anything?
All we can do is hear ourselves.
They could hear us on their end, but they're just trying to fix their end so we could hear them.
Okay.
Got it. Thank you.
I can see them fine now, but they're on mute.
So that's the east wing portion. Seems like that's pretty much completed. We've gone through the fitness center equipment. We may be adding a Smith machine. Are we still waiting for a quote for that?
I'm not waiting for a quote, but I could find one for you. I think we ballpark was 5,000, but I can get a quote.
Right, that's what you have in the notes.
I would see what they would say with the machine and then make sure that the weights are included, because I think it's gonna be a lot more than just the 5,000.
Okay.
Anything else?
There are other items to order for the fitness center, but those are on budget. So we were going to order 2 spin bikes, some mats and mirrors. Those were
Just the one.
Do we need to make decisions on that or
no, it was budgeted and I think we were waiting to make a decision because we were waiting to get the delivery date. Now that we have a delivery date, I can work with Joe to push those orders through.
Okay, you got that?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Everything was ordered for the gym, like the nets and all that stuff.
That was, yeah, that's where I'm next. So, we have the basketball hoop ordered, correct?
It's here. I
It's
think.
here.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Somebody asked a question about that, about the wear and tear on the basket. Is what kind of hoop was ordered? Because they were saying, is it freestanding or is it like on the
Suspended.
suspended? Thank you.
It's freestanding on a pole, just
So-
like you would have in basically
Someone
a
was
drive.
a homeowner was commenting that the wear and tear of like, you know, a pickup game on something like that it will not hold up over time. We might be replacing it sooner than later. Again, not here nor there, just.
It's not a pole, but it's not, it's like a free, you can move it, right?
It's
It's gonna be
fixed to the
floor.
floor.
Oh, into, okay.
So it might be part of it.
Okay.
Is there any installation cost for that?
Yes and no. It'll be in-house.
Okay.
We're gonna make that one in-house.
Okay,
But the problem is we can't do any of that until we
Until
know
the
where the
floor.
court's going.
Right.
What's the,
Gotta have the floor.
what's it painted?
yeah, I'm just, to Hal's
We
earlier
do
point,
have
I
a
wanted to try to make
pickleball.
these decisions now. if we can.
And that for pickle. And what else are we missing?
A pickleball net was donated, correct?
Right.
Shuffleboard has got to go in there.
So we need the equipment for that?
Generally, people who play that have been using their own equipment.
But we need to. Forgive the lack of familiarity, with this, we need to paint an area for that, right?
Mhm.
Is that something
That's
that
with
we're
the striping of the
striking? Okay, good. Okay, any other outstanding issues? Any other surprises, anything?
Not today.
Not today.
I don't think this relates to the financial side of this, but I think oversight should take up the gym. Addressing, people are, when the gym actually opens, that main area, because everything is kind of overlapped, there has been some discussion about setting up protocols, checking out time so that people can have like open play and all of those things. I think that should be fleshed out before so that people can come and use the space productively.
Yeah, programming it.
Yeah.
is, we touched on that a little bit at the last meeting.
So, right, because that's like essentially 2-3 months away, so we should probably have something in place, our system.
But then go to social.
Events can take that. We can work with, if that's okay to work with you on that.
Definitely.
Great.
One thing I would love to have is just a breakdown on what type of equipment and the layout of the exercise room. Just a lot of homeowners come in and ask what kind of equipment, what
And I
Oh, like a
apologize.
handout, give them a handout, that'd be good.
to sit on.
You guys asked me that last time and I just haven't gotten it done. So I'll get that. Thank you.
We also may want to consider, I don't know if when the entertaining was in use before, if there were any written rules and regulations or any protocols that people were to follow. I know we were talking about having people sign a waiver if they're going to come use the fitness center. I certainly think that should be included. Did we have rules for before? Maybe we could pull those out, dust them off, and then,
Update them.
sorry,
I think they're in there, that trailer.
Is the gym area gonna be separate access than the building?
Yes.
Okay, so it should be that if you use the.
yep.
That's what we discussed.
That's
Yeah,
part of-
I meant more generally for the, like, the
Oh.
entire building, what are the, here are the rules, like you have for the pool house and.
I
pool.
mean, it was generally that 2 guests per person. Obviously, if you're playing a basketball game and you have, a couple of people coming with 4 guests and not enough, I don't know a lot about basketball, but anyway, there were sometimes it went over that because we had problems with the local kids bringing a whole basketball team. A
Right.
lot of times cards were given out, and I think with today's technology and the system, the pass point we're gonna have, we'll be able to keep track of that a little bit more better than. we
And
used
security.
to. I mean, it was at a point in time when, and security being here.
Yeah.
It was, you know, the staff had problems going to the bathroom on the other side of the building, walking through all the people that were here. Just feeling uncomfortable.
Are we also setting up, like, children being allowed into the fitness area under the age of X?
That would be covered under these rules that I'm thinking we need to
Yeah.
make sure we have.
Yes.
Well,
So two
I've
separate
gotten
rules.
already a few complaints.
Yeah, I know,
about,
yeah.
Kids up there where their parents work and they're not paying attention to them, they're catapulting off the treadmill. So there is, you know, we're gonna have to come up with some
Yeah,
kind
I-
of.
And how they get
And I
posted.
think having it separately, to Alex's point, having it separately keyed to the fitness center, but we'll need, I think, two sets of rules. We need a general sort of entertaining and facilities
Code of
use
conduct.
rules, and then something specific to the fitness center itself because of the unique risks that are there.
Right, so,
People also
so,
addressing, sorry, common courtesy about, I don't work out, but they were saying like if they do like a training kind of thing where like no more than 20 or 30 minutes on machine so that people can, I don't know.
Rotation.
Rotation
We can,
rules.
we'll work all those
Not for
fine
me.
details out.
so we've got to,
It's not gonna be, it's not gonna be immediate. The issues will arise as we continue
Right,
to evolve.
and we'll amend, but
Right.
just to sum it all up, you know, from what I'm hearing, I think you're gonna we need to write these rules, send the rules out to the community. And we could also post the rules both at the main entrance and into the entrance to the fitness center.
Absolutely.
So,
Make the parents know, kids.
And I think that's what Alana meant by.
I think so too.
I actually agree with Alana. That might be more of an oversight thing.
I'm happy to do, I think events can take on kind of programming schedules.
Mhm.
If somebody else can play with the rules, like that's kind of outside of our general scope.
There are also people like, I think Joe Bacana, we have phys ed teachers in the, like, who can speak to the stuff. I can't speak to that. I don't know, you know, like there's people who work here.
We have
who
almost
can
the
set
same
that up,
equipment.
Yeah.
that
So
we're gonna be
if you
having
want those
for the
names, I'll be
most
happy to
part,
pass them on.
But
Well, we
if
can
they're-
start
if those people are
collaborating
on the
together.
oversight committee, that would be helpful.
It's also will help when we have, I mean, secondary benefit of consolidating all the gym equipment in the fitness center. All of that will be in one single purpose room, as opposed to the pool house where folks are in the pool house for all sorts of reasons. One of which may be exercise. So if you're in the fitness center, you're in the fitness center. There's only one reason you're there.
Well, and this will be a little bit bigger building. Their children could be in another part of the building doing something else. However, while they're in the gym, somebody's got to keep an eye on what's
Yeah.
going on. You know, they're not jumping off the second floor to the first floor and hanging off the basket. And
At that point, maybe just a rule would be, the homeowners are liable for their children, and, you guys are gonna identify the kids and contact the parent / homeowner.
Okay, so to put a little bit of a bow on item B for our agenda overall, I'm gonna work with Michael this week to firm up written quotes for all of these sort of new money items and anything that's outstanding quote wise. We'll present them as a package of decisions that we can vote on by email. I want to get that taken care of by the end of business on Friday. You can have the weekend to consider it, and then we'll vote. I'm gonna also ask Earl to follow up on the rules and waiver for the fitness center, specifically in entertainment area generally, and then we'll bring that back to everybody in the meantime, even before the next meeting, I hope, so that we can have that solidified in time for the opening. All right?
Can you set a date, a tentative date for the opening?
I think we should
We
be.
can, there's too much, still to be done.
I think we were talking about, so we announced delivery of the equipment's coming March 1st, so it'll be sometime in the beginning of March. All right, guys, we're gonna move on.
just,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're picking a date of March 1st. You still have HVAC that has to be done in that room, and that could be a little bit of a hold.
Right, so March 1st is the date for delivery of the equipment. By no means is that gonna necessarily be the opening date, but that's a really good target for us to start focusing in on.
But that equipment, again, HVAC is ordered.
Right.
So it's not a delay on that.
No, it's just a
I would say maybe shoot for a May 1 date to open the building and say, okay, here we are. You know, just as a goal to reach, we have an idea.
You can put March 1st as a goal.
No, I'm saying May 1st. I'm giving you more time. Okay?
I know you're giving more time. We're,
So,
Well,
you get it sooner than May 1, wonderful. What is it?
I don't know that we're at that point yet. Let's get ETAs on the HVAC and then we'll know more.
deliveries, quotes, all that stuff.
yeah,
I don't think we're just to make a decision on all that now.
okay.
And before you move down, I'm sorry. Good point. So when you're getting all of these quotes, I think included in the quotes is an ETA. On labor, just because, we can get an epoxy floor for $15,000. When can you be here?
For anyone, but.
Okay.
It's a lie.
All right, we're ready to move on. Item C in our agenda. Michael, any management issues? Any management related items we need to? Any maintenance issues we need to talk about?
No, we've been pretty much just trying to get certain parts of this going. Our guys are stepping in where they need to and move things along, so.
Great.
That'll be a little bit helpful for you also.
On to the insurance renewal process. Michael, Zach, any?
So there's still no loss run. The family, the broker that we're working with, families going through some tougher times. So I haven't been really leaning on them.
Okay.
Just a local guy, community. But I do have it up with a couple wholesalers to help him out in the meantime. So he's still working. I follow up twice this week for a loss run. But we're still waiting on it.
Okay.
But I do, if you want to give me the contact information, I may never follow up with. You said you had something, but I do have other carriers, obviously exclusive of us, but that we could get a solution for it, so.
Zach, I'll play this with you. We'll actually get this nailed down. Okay.
That is in February.
Yeah,
That's why
there's an urgency to this.
I gave him a heads up, just saying that I'm going to wholesalers and I'll just circle him back in.
I believe you got the I saw it on Friday, the DNO, conditional renewal on the DNO. So I'll get that. I just saw it on Friday. So I'll get it.
Are our renewals all aligned from the cover date?
Yes, the only thing that's not is our auto.
Yeah,
That's in December.
Okay, that's fine. Any questions, guys, on insurance piece? Okay. Let's go on to the financial review. Dan, would you, our financials are tab 4 of board book. There's also the Excel spreadsheet workbook that Dan emailed us Friday. So you can refer to those, but Dan can give us an overview and see if anybody has any questions.
So as far as our December figures go, some of these are subject to change. It's an end of the year month. So what we've targeted is January 25th as our annual closing date for any invoices or anything received. Sometimes our providers or contractors are a little delayed on sending us invoices, as you can see with some of this other work. So anything coming in after the 25th will fall into the 2023 budget year. We don't have a complete breakdown because of that just yet for 2023, so we're hoping that we can have some more of that in the coming weeks. As far as expenses go and everything for the month, I'd like to start with our most urgent thing that we were pressing for October and November, as our payables started out as high as $290,000. We're down to $15,421. So fantastic job to our management getting all of our contracts paid off and up to date. We did receive our bank draws for the construction loan, so that's good news. Our golf course continues to be paid down. We're down to 102,000 left on that. Dues from our income is much higher than our budget for this year or for this month. So we did receive there. We incurred late fees and interest. We received $8,100 in transfer fees for the month, so we're still selling homes. Payroll continues to trend up, something that we're gonna focus obviously on making sure that we're meeting our budgetary expenses on our payroll. Health insurance took a dip, so we dropped some dependents on there, so we had a little bit of savings there. $8,700 in legal expenses for this month was incurred, but Michael is expecting that to significantly drop because some of those were already paid out through settlements that we had received through some legal expenses. Looks like 25-ish hours in legal. We had obviously our auto insurance policy hit for the 2023 year in December. Roughly almost $6,000 there.
That's for the whole year.
Yep.
But
Security patrols was under budget. So we had a little bit of savings there of $1,200, which helped to leverage the $1,100 we had to pay out for new key cards. Ground salaries, we had a bit of a savings there of $1,300 for the month. And we paid out some maintenance and repairs of $1,600 for some equipment. Is that a homeowner? And that's our monthly review.
any questions?
Yeah, let's go back to the payroll, $7,000 over for the month. And I understand just about half of that is Christmas bonus. It's something we need to be concerned about. It's one of the largest items in our budget. We need to keep a closer check on what that payroll is every month. Even if we're only $3,700 over budget, you know, spread that out over 12 months, it's significant.
It is.
So why are we over budget and how do we keep a check on it?
So if you look at for the annual, right now we are considerably over.
Some of that will probably, especially now that your budget is now, your budget, you're gonna be doing your budget in November, you know, so now you're, instead of guesstimating in June, what the budget is gonna be, a lot of your line items are gonna start to clean up now, because you're not budgeting, guesstimating so far out.
Okay. All right, I just think,
So some of the feedback I've received from Michael was overtime was a concern. Because we don't necessarily have a budget for overtime either. So once you put a payroll budget out there, if anybody has to go and do additional work, that overtime is levied against the budget above and beyond.
well, I understand, but that's what a budget is.
Yeah, so we
Get the
need-
work done within what's been budgeted.
Yeah, and that may come down to an HR committee issue too, where
And-
we need to understand the scope of work and where the overtime is coming in.
That's exactly where I was going with this, and I'm gonna raise the issue, and we could talk offline also about
So also
the
just
bonuses.
my point to that is exactly what Patrick just said, is if we're budgeted X amount of money for payroll, we need to obviously adhere to that. Gotcha. But if we're having issues with overtime and other items, because our payroll is split between us and the water company, that might be something that we have to look into.
And I also understand some of that unexpected payroll, whether it's regular or overtime rate, is probably due to work that's being done here. You know,
Well, I'm
because
thinking-
we didn't have contractors to do certain things. I understand that some of that work is being
No.
done. No, it's not.
No,
Okay.
no, what you're missing is a storm. You know, you can have a snowstorm that you're spending 15 hours cleaning snow, plowing snow, pushing snow. We haven't had any this year, thank God. Those are things that are popping up. The administration end is pretty much ends up being, you know, on track, because we don't have a lot of overtime on the administration. It's on the pay, the figures that are in the administration end were wrong a couple of years ago. And that
Okay.
there were things that weren't figured out, but now we'll get it taken. care
All
of.
right, so yeah, go back to what Patrick said. Let's make this an HR issue.
Yeah. Okay, any other questions on the budget, Chris?
Yeah, she didn't pay anything for it at this moment. I just, the accounting fees we're paying are just, they're way over budget and they're really high. And I don't know if there's anything to be done about that, but we're paying through the nose for accounting. I mean, we had $27,000 budgeted for the year. We're at $43,000 in expenditures on accounting for the year. Like,
Is that,
not the audit, it's the accounting. That's
right, I don't believe that's all fully broken out yet, so that'll adjustments, some adjustments will be in there as well this month.
Okay.
And that's on the annual, is what you're talking about.
Yes, you're right, yeah. That's just an eye-popping number for.
It is, and we did incur additional expenses because during the assessment period, what was it, probably around May, is when she really started becoming involved with getting our financials in line to figure out what we're gonna do with the assessment. So a lot of that was rolled into there too.
Okay. So that we wouldn't expect to repeat this year.
Same thing with that big, study that she did. Forget
That
what it was.
all cost you money.
Right, but that's not something that we would need to incur again. That was to bring years worth of bookkeeping up to date, right?
Well, yeah, she was just giving a timeline of all of the issues that kind of led up to where we're at now with RBT.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other questions? Okay, thank you, Sam. The 2022, the audit of the 2022 financials.
We didn't vote on the
Motion to approve.
Oh, I'm sorry, forgive me, yeah. We need to,
I move.
Chris moves. Seconded. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Recusals, abstentions? Joel is recused. Motion passes. Okay. The audit of the 2022 financials. I signed our rep letter to get that started. We shipped them everything they need, or is that coming by the end of this month?
You signed last year.
Sorry?
You signed last year's letter.
No, he did a contract too.
Yeah, I thought we signed the engagement to do, at the same time, we said we want to do the 2022.
Yeah, that stuff will come, that's the deadline that Dan was talking about on the 25th. So
Right.
we can start getting things closed up for them to do.
Right. Point is that audit is starting. So we expect it not to languish into October. It'll be done first part of this year. That's what we're shooting for. So you can have audited financials in a timely manner out to the community.
And we did post the previous years, right?
The audits on the page.
I believe so, should be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think
do
so.
that. Okay. All right, let's move to item E, the water company. Alan, welcome.
Facility.
Yeah.
I guess as most of you, or some of you may know, we finally did close on the property. Center Discovery. And public service was made happy because we paid our credit line down. Now on with that, no details yet, but we are talking to the Center of Discovery about helping us with the tank and water service. So I know Michael's been going back and forth with that stuff. So as
Alan
that
needs to
develops,
move
we'll
closer.
let you guys know. Our next order of business is the other property next door, which we had appraised several years ago, but we're in the process of getting it appraised again, because things certainly have changed. We want to sell that as quickly as possible also.
That's the house property.
The house property at market value. And hopefully we'll get that taken care of. We're getting close to submitting our new rate case, which should be another week or so.
Yeah.
Okay. One thing we got hit with was a big bill for the meters, the endpoints and whatnot.
Mm.
So $50-some-odd thousand. But some people haven't had them installed and they're not getting really communication between the meters and us, and they're thinking the water's not being charged. But once you put the endpoint in, those meters have memories, and you're gonna get back billed or whatever. So.
If on that issue, we've also started a big campaign push to get the endpoints in. If they don't, by the end of this month, there'll be a $25 no access fee put onto their bills. So I'm sure they'll start moving a little quicker once
Right.
that. No, it's
That's a monthly,
also.
is that a monthly fee?
That's a monthly fee, and also we will be estimating the usage that they have. Just worked going through the Public Service Commission the past couple of weeks, getting this all set up, what we can and cannot do.
Well, roughly how many customers are we talking about?
355.
Still have not installed the new.
No, right, and so what happens is the communication goes from a daily communication to once a week communication. It all has to do with the 5G technology that went through. Our older endpoints, the original endpoints are 2G technology. So that's where the problem's coming in. Apparently the providers worked out because there were so many customers throughout the country that are companies that were having the same problem. Apparently they're letting them communicate once a week, so. Some of them are, some of them aren't, so this is a way we're gonna push and try to get that moved along a little bit faster. We are also doing drive-by inspections, so if we happen to see that the endpoint's on the outside of the house and has to change, they're just changing the endpoint out and getting it done. Where the problem comes is sometimes the meter has to be, they have to get into the meter head and communicate with the meter head on top of the meter head, so that's some of the times has to be done like that. But for the most part, it's a simple process, takes about 15 minutes, so we're
I don't even
pushing.
think it took that long.
Oh, yeah, we're pushing to get them done pretty quickly.
Okay. We did not get our financials yet this month. As soon as we do, we'll shoot them over to you guys.
Wait, what, I thought we had December's, no?
No, that was what you had in the packet.
Yeah,
I think that's November's.
November's. Oh, I'm sorry.
I haven't seen these yet. The last thing, I guess, everybody knows, Friday night, we had a water main break. This happening at night makes it worse, because the way to find it is driving around. And there's no water gushing in the street, makes it a little difficult. This happened to be off the street in the, you say woods, not woods.
Right off the street.
Yeah, right over the street, so Michael found it, you know, and people, it took a while, you know.
It
And,
started at 11 o'clock, 1 o'clock that night it started.
and, you know, everybody got the email or saw that they had the water at 6 o'clock in the morning. But our guys are there, that's when we first start fixing it. 6 o'clock is when they divert the water, so 95% of us have water, and just that small section is blocked off. So that's when they start fixing. Our guys were there till I think about 2 yesterday.
Yeah, it's about 30. We finished up at 4:30.
Yeah, so they had a long day.
It
You
was
know, I just
cool.
wanted to thank them for being out there.
Yeah.
I was thinking, when I turned the force on, I said, oh, shit.
So
I was waiting till late in the morning. I was gonna text you.
Well, I was pretty excited when I got that first text from the answering service at 11 o'clock the night before, 10:55.
I wasn't gonna bother you now.
And it's amazing how people think by putting it on Facebook, Michael's gonna know about, you know,
Right.
you gotta call the office. I mean,
And that gets a little cumbersome as well, because when the customer calls, the answering service does its job and calls me, but I'm trying to fix your water too after about an hour into this, and probably got to have 200 calls, so I'm getting all these texts. And time is the issue when we get an email or a text from the answering service. If it's not answered within 10 minutes, they continually do it again. That isn't answered within 10 minutes. Now they're making a phone call.
So they can inform us.
So, oh yeah, so now everybody's, but it will get it worked out, but it.
May not be
was.
perfect, but it sounds like it actually worked out quite well and everything was
The
handled
only thing
really
we-
in a timely manner.
We didn't do yesterday was, I wasn't able to get an email out, but it was pretty, I got the text out.
Text that, yes.
You know, that kind of work, and then you got, you know, people asking, is that gonna affect my road? Well, yeah.
Yeah, again, not an ideal situation. Great job.
That's not.
What's
Thank you,
that?
Alan.
Thanks.
Two different breaks.
Right, my concern was that it just wasn't another break.
Right. No, it was just, what happened is we couldn't find it. And I only found that by mistake because now we were running around burping hydrants. And I went to open that hydrant that's back in the woods in that corner, and I got out of the truck and there it was. Craig actually fell in.
It was swampy.
Oh yeah, right up to his waist.
It looked like.
The original
It looked.
message said it was between Lakeshore Drive South.
That was
right. I said, it's under the lake.
That was between those intersections.
Right, and that's why I said, does that affect where I am? Because I thought that would be,
Well, while I was
Another
trying
break
to
at
do
that
that
hour.
text, I was answering.
because at 4:30 in the morning, I was out in the street and I said, there's a
I
pole here in the
just
middle
think
of the
it's
street.
important to highlight that the response time seemed to be pretty urgent and.
The response was
So
great.
our contractor, I texted him at 4:30, you know, at this point, it was out isolated. Texted him, Brian Poley at 4:30 that we had a leak, call me when you get up first thing, and he texted me right back how deep, and they were here by 7:30 by the time they
I
got
had
everything
work.
moving.
I got up at 5, no water. Oh, man.
Yeah, a laudable job all around. Thanks.
Response was awesome, yeah.
How many, are all the meters installed? There's like a handful of people that still don't have water meters in their houses yet, or?
It's only about 10. Yeah, and they'll be getting the same charge as well, because it's a no access fee of $25, so.
Okay. We're gonna move on, but I want to, thanks, Ellen, and I want to clear up for the record and for our minutes, at tab 5 in the board book, is not the December 2022 financials, it is the November 2022 financials. I made a mistake and was looking at the second column and I misread 12/31/21 as 12/31/22, so my bad, but we'll see those December 2022 financials of the water company when they become available. Moving on to the committee reports. Rich Brown, are you able to hear us and unmute and very quickly, especially given our bandwidth issues, present for the Lakes Committee? And before you do, actually, let me just say, board members, in your board book at tab 6 is a report that Rich has provided with some action items. Recognizing that this was only given to you yesterday, I would propose that we listen to Rich, but that we have some time, but that we not take any action today, and really consider what Rich has to present and the Lakes Committee has to present, and then deal with stuff at our next meeting. Okay, Rich, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I presented a group of items that we've done research on and have come to a standstill since all that information will now have to be decisions of the board. The Lakes Committee will actually meet this Thursday, and we will go over a couple of other issues. Several of the issues are, we don't know what the scheduling is for the addling of eggs and what the plan and expenses are going to be, but the committee would like to know what that is. We believe that fishing regulations have to be updated because of the increased population. We have otters that could be a problem to the community and the amounts of fish in a lake because they consume a lot of fish. Joel, I'm going to refer stocking to you. Pollutants, we still have to address the water runoff in the lakes regarding all of those drains and see what the state is planning to do across the state for stormwater control, because in the long term, very long term, this could be a critical issue for us on our drinking water supply. And dam management is Tom and Rich Rubin. I do have a question for the board. Who is my co-chair? Is it Tom or is it Earl?
Me.
Tom?
Tom?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Does the board have any questions?
Anybody? No. All right, thank you, Rich.
I have just a couple
Thank you.
to add to that. So we get the report back from the engineering firm for the design for Davies Dam and the repair to the main dam. So I'm gonna be contacting them this week to go over both of those. We've already paid for the report already. That was at 13 that we paid for. So there's a lot more numbers associated with that and get an update on, so I can get some guidance on that for you guys.
What do you mean financially or?
Well, basically, we
Both.
pay for the report, but we don't even
Logistically,
have a report.
Pay for the report, we don't have a report, what do we need to do to get it?
That's kind of what he was
Part of
saying.
that conversation, but going over, they have different proposals of what they want to do.
What report we looking?
The Bergen stuff for the dam and repairs and
So
stuff,
who?
the engineering report for the dams.
Okay.
So I'm gonna call him this week, speak with him about that. I want some more information about that.
Call me
I have,
first. Sure.
We can do it together. I'll come over. We'll-
No, I got a lot of visitors this week, so. Yeah, just let me, from,
What we talked about this, the attachment you sent me.
okay, all right, so I just, I'm lost.
Rich?
I have two other questions. One is, does Michael have a schedule for the egg addling and the cost? Do we have that information?
April,
April?
how much?
2,000.
And what are they
2,000.
gonna do?
What do? They do the egg gathering.
What, is there a quota on how much work they do, or do they quit after they reach $1 expense, or how does it work?
No, they do, that's a quote to do, Davies Lake, Treasure Lake, Lake Louise Marie.
We have the quote.
All right.
Okay, do you have the quote there?
Yeah.
Well, you don't need to
We
get it.
we have that quote and we accounted for that in the 2023 operating budget, as I recall. Specifically, there's a line item for that. Directly tied to it.
Okay.
So
The
we've got
other
that.
thing, the other thing is the water company did not give anything on the Princeton Hydro report, and it should have been in by now.
No, it shouldn't be in by now because it's not finished. It's a 2-year report. They just started it in August.
Okay, don't they have a status report? What they've done and where they're at?
I could check with the water company board and see where they're at.
Well, I asked for that last month and nobody came forward. So, I mean, it's important to know what's going on as part of the lakes planning for pollution. There's going to be screaming about the algae again, and we should be able to report back to the community what's going on. We get a heat wave, and the way weather's been, you are liable to get a serious heat wave this summer. Not trying to make an issue, but we need more feedback from them. They do status reports.
Can we ask for that?
Can we just, at this point, make it unanimous, whatever report we get from them?
It's not your report.
No,
It's not, I don't think you ought to go there yet.
no, I'm just saying, whatever report you, as updates, you just send it to Rich.
We've already done that.
Okay.
They've already done that. As soon as we get stuff on the report, we'll
And update.
forward them along.
There's one other item.
Yeah.
One thing we're gonna add to the list, and this is something that Rich and I talked about all the time, and it's the grass eating carp that they're really helpful water quality wise. We have an issue of not being able to put them back because of the dam. So it's something we're gonna add to the project list.
Okay.
Whether it comes to fruition, if we're able to do something about it or not. But when we had them, and they were like giant sharks and they did a lot of eating. It would help.
Don't go swimming in there, no?
Nah, they don't,
Huge.
they're not interested in you.
But watch them.
But when you see them come up, they're like, "How was
Yeah.
that?"
But they do a great job of with water quality and grass and stuff, and if there's a way to find a way to get them in, or the DEC to give us approval, it would be great. So we're gonna add that on one of our project lists,
Why can't we have them? Or-
because the spillway. Because that's, when we talked years ago, the issue was in a flood area, if it goes over,
Then the
you're
fish
gonna
will
have
go
a
on.
species going downstream. That was the last time I heard years ago.
No, they didn't. The last time they asked, they wouldn't approve it, so. And it wasn't because of the spillway, but I'll give you that.
Try.
They let those guys lasted a long time.
An update on that is the DEC is not allowing grass carp because they're all not, some of them are fertile that are coming through and reproducing. That's one of the big control problems. And they have found that, like Tom was saying, they go into tributaries that they don't belong in.
Okay. Any other questions for the Lakes Committee? All right, thank you, Rich. Thanks, Tom. Quick update on the Bylaws Committee. We met this week. Robert Dobrich has prepared with a couple of other lawyers on the committee some proposed language to make the Bylaws Committee a permanent standing committee that's chartered by our bylaws. We had a pretty long and robust discussion over some of the features of the language, including two major areas that we focused on were what are the qualifications of those who we ideally would like to see volunteer and sit on the committee. The proposal would have it comprised of a majority of non-board members. And then we also talked about what the chartered function of the committee would be. One part of that proposal was that the bylaws committee would advise the board on interpretation of the bylaws. I think we identified some functional problems in how that reads and where we're laying fiduciary duties, that sort of thing. Point is, it's a really good start, but we think that there are some amendments that need to be made. And so we're going to work on those over the next month and possibly adopt the language for the board to look at the next bylaws committee meeting. We're still working on written hearing procedures, electronic voting procedures, and a review of ambiguities generally throughout the bylaws. And we'll provide an update on that at our next meeting. Any questions for the bylaws committee? Yes.
Just a general question. What about like we have people building houses, but let's say what happens if a guy builds a house, starts building a house and then doesn't complete it with financial? So I don't know, who do I talk to about, let's say, maybe getting like requiring builders to file a surety bond, so that if something does happen, that the site will be completed as compared to just like foul.
Should that be included in the violations?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking. I'm the only reason why I'm bringing.
I would think that's either an oversight or a long range.
I don't know, I'm just throwing it out there. I think it's something you might want to look into because.
It could happen because with everything going up right now, I mean, why not take their time to build a house?
Well, I mean, so I'm just, there's also, like, I can see it, like, the guy right across the street from his building, he's hitting rock, you know, and, you know, you don't, if you start, you clear the land and you start doing this, and then, I know a neighbor further down, it cost him over $50,000 because he had to clean out his hole, because all the junk that's in it. If you don't have the financial wherewithal to do this, then you're done, you know, and then you're left with a lot.
So let's have Earl and the oversight committee look at that.
Okay, I'll shoot it.
And by the way, I think Earl is on now.
Yeah,
He's unable to speak, so just want the minutes to reflect that. Earl, you don't need to do anything, just pointing you out. Any other questions for the bylaws committee, Chris?
Yeah, I think when you introduced this at the last meeting, Hal, I think you had some reservations. I just, can you lay out kind of what's the problem that amendment is designed to address? Like, what is the problem that requires that solution?
I think that the feeling is two things. First, that there, as not a permanent standing committee, that there's potentially some lost institutional knowledge by having it just sort of reconstituted every board term. And then secondly, with the non-board member makeup, there's a concern that if it's too board heavy, that it can be used really just as a tool of the board to enact entrenchment measures for the board. I don't share that view as being a real problem, especially given that any bylaws change has to be voted on by the board and then by a supermajority of the community. But be that as it may, there's a genuine concern among non-board members of the committee right now that they want to make it not board heavy. And the problem that they're trying to solve for is really a continuity issue, because there's a belief that the bylaws committee, given the function of the bylaws as the governing document, is so important that it should be made a permanent standing committee.
Is there anything to prevent non-board members of the bylaws committee from simply continuing to serve across multiple years?
Nothing at all. Well, other than, the way it's currently written, the board president appoints the members of the committees, and I suppose that could be politically manipulated. And I think that's part of what.
And I guess at that point, if you assigned a head count to it and you assign 6 board members and you're allowed 9 people, then that would mean that you would basically eliminate the ability of homeowners overpowering.
Maybe another way I can ask this, is this a real or imagined problem?
Real.
Okay,
please.
What,
Great question. Great question. Because I don't know if it is real. No, and I'm gonna probably get in trouble for speaking, but I don't know.
Well, I think a lot of different views.
Explain it, yeah, why do you think it's a real issue?
Isn't that what he just addressed, which was like because the president puts people on the committees, that could be a political issue?
But do we had, I guess,
because
change the bylaws, right? I mean, if we had a case where somebody who wished in good faith to serve in the bylaws was somehow prevented from doing so because of the board feeling like they might be troublesome in some way, has that actually happened, or is that
I don't know.
Then maybe a much simpler solution to all of this is no more than 2 board members.
well, that's kind of what
serve on the committee.
That's exactly what.
Instead of, right, but instead of making this a standing committee, which I think does the opposite, I think that concentrates too much power in those
Yeah, but
people
there
who
was-
are on long-term.
There's not a lot of people volunteering to be on bylaws, because it's not that board heavy, just the ratio is.
There's not a lot of volunteers
Not a lot of
in
people want to be on it, or volunteer to be on it.
I think one concern I have on that line, and I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, I think one concern I have is that we already have difficulty with community engagement, getting people to volunteer to join things, and if we start raising the bar for people to join various opportunities.
That was a topic. that I
Yeah,
brought.
we actually
You know,
went through that point as well.
Right, I'm kind of leaning that way too, Chris. I mean, if you're trying to get more people involved, and I think by making somebody, not a permanent, but a long-term committee chair or committee person on that, does the opposite. It really does the opposite. Even if there's only 1 board member who volunteers and nobody else, at least that changes over every year when the board changes over.
So Hal, not only is that factual, but also there's a suggestion of context within the proposed, I don't know, bylaw that he and or she should have specific type of experience. I know Dan and I are not comfortable with it. I'm definitely not comfortable with it. And I think that would only even widen that concern that you have, both yourself and Chris, around our neighbors wanting to get engaged. If it is suggested that they need to have legal experience in some documented fashion, that's not cool.
I think the encompassing factor here is we don't want to do anything to inhibit people from volunteering
Right.
whatsoever.
Right.
All right. Well, listen, I think the committee should complete their work, bring it to the board, and we'll take a look at it.
Yeah.
I think there's enough time left in this year's board to vote it down, and if it gets voted down, then you guys could rewrite it, and
It's just, it's at the thought brewing process right now.
Yeah, so that's what we're up to. Any other questions? All right, that's it for me. Who's next? Oversight. Earl, if you're able to unmute, Earl provided by email his report as well.
Yeah, I can run through real quick. I don't have it with me because I'm running from one plane to another. Oversight committee, we met right before the holiday. Actually, it was great conversation. There's a couple of open items that we need to drive. Brittany from the management office handed over a rental agreement that needed to be modernized. So we talked about it amongst the group. It was handed over to Eric Vineyard. Vinland, I think it is. He's one of the members of the committee. He's also an attorney. He took it with a red pen and marked it up, provided some feedback to both myself and Alana. I looked at it once, haven't looked at it since then. I need to get some time on Alana's calendar before the end of the month. And then her and I can kind of take some of the recommendations, as well as Alana's gonna have some communication with some folks out in the community that's rented the space and kind of bring that back. And, you know, between the two of us, we'll come back hopefully by the end of the month, definitely before next month's meeting, February's meeting, with a working document, for lack of a better word. The commitment that I had to Brittany was by March, we'd kind of have this thing baked out and tweaked and modified and sent back. That's one. The second item is the boat storage solution. Rich and his team, the Lakes Committee, put together a pretty comprehensive overview, some recommendations as well as some opinions. It was sent amongst the group on a call in December. Still waiting on getting some feedback from a few of the committee members. Definitely got some from Eric. And I think Marcy provided some feedback. So the expectation is we have a meeting, I think in a week, that will review all of that comments and feedback based off of Rich first assessment of the boat storage issue and the recommendation. There also needs to be some parallel path activities done by myself. I need to meet with the executive board, specifically yourself, Dan, Hal, and Patrick, to just kind of look at what our position is from a boat storage recommendation. Also probably get some direction from you, Patrick, to see if there's any legalities that we need to kind of take to Marvin. And then by the end of the month, I'll take a pass of actually writing down a recommended approach based off of that feedback. We also need to loop in the management office because they have some software that Richard talked about utilizing to manage this process. But there's a lot of work that needs to go into really operationalizing this system and then putting some type of governance in. I won't necessarily say we have a boat storage cop, but we may have to have that. And what are the ramifications in the policies if someone breaches whatever process we come up with? All that has to be flushed out. It's a heavy lift, and I also want to make sure that it's fair and equitable. And I don't think I have enough information as a non-boat owner to make those decisions. So my commitment to the board is that by the end of the month, I will have at least some framework based off of the information that I had and kind of go from there. And I think that's really it. There's some conversation around the studies committee, having some dialogue with Chris and what he's doing over with the welcome committee. I think Marcy wanted to do that. And I know Alana said, I think from my notes, if I recall correctly, that she may support, but I will let Marcy reach out to you, Chris, and whatever we need to do to partner up to support the welcoming committee, so be it. But right now, those are our two biggest challenges to overcome. It's documented in what was sent to the board. And that's it.
All right, thanks, Earl. Questions for Earl?
I have actually questions from the board on the rental agreement, if we could just roundtable this quickly.
Okay.
And
Yep,
also
yep.
office perspective. Is there any opinion on whether we should limit the types of events that we are renting out in the for the clubhouse?
Without spending much time thinking about it,
Just quick.
I want to table that until I can process my head around that.
Okay.
Did you have it, for instance?
I know Michael in the past has said that some people have done fundraising events out of the clubhouse. I know that is something that to me would be top of mind in terms of limiting events.
Do we have a no solicitation policy?
We do not, so that's why.
That might be, if we did, then I could see, but if we don't.
what would be the concern around doing fundraising events?
I think the concern was outside people, how they were like, for example, like if we had a member who lived here, but this was like her mother-in-law was renting and then doing a big event using our space. I know that had just been brought up in the past. I just wanted to put that out there.
But that would be no different from, say, a member renting for a wedding and having lots of outside guests come.
Right.
I mean,
Right, but it was for the sole purpose of
Generate money.
income.
Yeah, I think the other thing of it is that, you know, it would have to be addressed on a case-by-case basis, because you can have a mother do a 16-year-old birthday party and it get crashed by an extra 20 kids that we don't know about. I think that's one of the things Alana came up with a great question. That's a concern, but we may want to have an internal conversation, and I don't know if we can account for every scenario.
I think we need, to that point, I think we need to maintain at least some ability to have discretion just to say no.
Mhm.
I mean,
Okay,
some hate group wants to rent it and hold their, monthly meeting there, we're gonna say no. And we need to be able to say no. It's not a fundraiser necessarily or something else that's prohibited. We just need to have places where we're just gonna say, no, not happening.
so more of a description of the type of that would be subject to approval.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay.
just that there's. at the end of the
That's a
day-
great point, because I was thinking along the lines, I think where Chris was going with this, as long as they're paying, or as long as it's a member who's paying it and, hosting the function, and I don't think we should have a problem, but then I take your example of a hate group, and yeah, we probably should eliminate that.
Yeah, I mean, we just, at the end of the day, we need to be able to have an absolute veto over it for no other reason than it's just a discretion. of the board.
Okay.
I mean, the other
We're not
one is-
looking to exclude people, but we need to have that tool in our toolbox.
And then is there any opinion on the single fee for all types of events? And do we want to modify and adjust what that is? Does anybody have like an off, like just trying to get
Of
consensus?
which,
So currently, right now,
space?
we're the clubhouse. We are $50 for anything before 5 o'clock. We are 100 for weekday evenings and 150 for weekend evenings. Does
So I can definitely tell you we need to modernize that price point. I think it's off. I'd want to have some conversation with Mike to get his opinion on what it should be, but I think an event that is.
For the clubhouse, well, that's pretty fair.
I
Yeah,
think so.
yeah.
I don't wanna overcharge any, I think that was okay.
And
My only
people
issue-
pay dues. I mean,
Mhm.
The only issue I had with the clubhouse rental, or the office per se had with the clubhouse rental, is the weekend events. When you rent a clubhouse for the weekend, you should get it from Friday evening to Sunday evening.
Okay.
Just because unless the
Oh,
board
when
wants
you
to step up
said, when you said
and-
150 for the weekend, that meant the entire weekend?
No, there is
$50
a afternoon price and an evening price, and as long, so like if you rent it for the evening, you could get in early if there is not an event, but also you might only be able to get in after 5 o'clock. That's how it
But
works.
then come, let's say your event gets over at midnight on Saturday. There could be someone coming in there at 9 AM on Sunday to start their baby
Right,
shower.
right.
Or
that's
we,
the
or we have a
issue.
board meeting or
Right.
something, well, now we won't have a problem over there.
That was the issue. So that
But-
it was better,
A
it would
transition
be better if you rented the clubhouse and you got the clubhouse Friday evening through Sunday evening, like you rented it for the whole weekend.
Well,
Because they're,
Just can't.
Because you
Why
gotta
can't-
set
Because
up
the
too.
turnover.
yeah, why couldn't we
That's
just,
true.
why couldn't you just limit the hours? So somebody rents
well,
at 8 o'clock on Friday, they have to be done by,
who's gonna come and make sure that the clubhouse is clean?
let's
Well,
just
that's-
rewind. I think the reason why we probably had those time slots is because there was probably less spaces to rent.
No,
So,
the reason it was because the people were setting it up from areas that do those time slots. But it just, they were, the fee was basically to take care of the cleaning.
Right.
Is what the fee was for. It had nothing to do with doing it.
Okay, and then, so, also, I don't see a cancellation current policy in the rental agreement. Did we have one? Okay, so I think that
It's
should be.
not one. So a couple of things, there will be a cancellation policy. 2, one of the things we need to make sure we account for is move in and move out, clean up and clean out. So if you're doing an event and to Brittany's point, it should be a flat weekend fee and it should be more than $150. And I'll tell you why. If you're setting up an event, you're going to need to move in. If you're setting up an event, you're going to need to break it down. and there needs to be a minimal fee for some type of cleaning, and we need to account for insurance. So, I mean, just the whole financial structure needs to be modernized and done correctly. Alana, you and I have fleshed that out. I've done thousands of events, it's easy. But I think from a protection perspective, we need to put in a standard move in and move out for every event, no matter who it's for. You get 2 hours to get in and 2 hours to get out.
What about a deposit? Like if you.
We have a $250
You
deposit.
do, okay, if you don't clean it, you lose your deposit.
Correct.
So I'll agree with Earl that, you know, we need to know what it's gonna cost to clean, and I'm sure it's more than $50 to clean, so those.
Well, no, you have the
It's
deposit.
250 right now.
Yeah, all right, so our pricing structure needs to be looked at, whatever it is to clean it,
So
it's gotta,
yeah,
it's
if
gotta
you
be.
rent- If you rent a park or facility, typically right now, you leave your deposit or whatever, and some places make you literally bag up all the garbage cans, tie them up, put all of your garbage bags in a holding facility or whatever it is. Everything's completely just as it was as you entered. So if that is our policy, then somebody could literally end their party at 12 o'clock and somebody could come right in at 12:30.
But what happens if?
Well, what happens when it's not done, right?
Right, what
You
happens?
you could say we have the money to clean it because we held the security deposit, but it's not done. So I think that's where, I don't see that being
There would
a
have to be an
difficult
inspection.
issue. We have a schedule, you know, somebody's not coming in today to book a party for tomorrow, and we already have a board meeting
Who does the
there.
inspections right now? To make sure that it's clean.
I don't know the answer, but I just think it's a matter of scheduling, and you could schedule it.
Okay, you know what, let's table this because we'll go around in circles. I'll
Good
make
enough.
you
Yeah,
all-
this is why I was saying we want to talk about it offline, because I think it sounds good, but on a Saturday event, to suggest, well, who's coming and doing the inspection on a Saturday? So now we're asking management to come in at 2 o'clock on a Sunday to inspect because there's another event Sunday from 5 to 10. We need to standardize this and simplify it, and we'll take this offline.
All
Well,
right,
it's
thank you, Earl.
basic, yeah.
All right, we're gonna move on to the long range planning committee. Hal? 30-second update.
We did have a meeting last Thursday, it was well attended, but didn't really discuss anything new because our first meeting was so sparsely attended. We just kind of spoke about all the things that we'd like to accomplish. So rather than reiterate everything, it's everything that was mentioned at the last board meeting was accomplished. We do have another meeting scheduled for early February.
But due to our financial issues, we really can't do anything. For what, 2 years, 3 years, I don't know.
Well,
You know?
you're right.
So I don't want you to waste your time.
No,
That's my
but I
point.
think our planning
Still a
for it
committee, I
has to
guess.
be.
Right.
So rather than wait 2 years from now before we even start coming up with ideas, we want to come up with the ideas now. It's understood from the committee's point of view that none of this is going to happen this year and probably not next, but we need to start planning. I think one of the things we could do is some of the things we've discussed, we'd like to get community input. So that might require a survey to go out. And I think what we discussed, which was very important for those who attended the last long-term planning committee, was we'd like to coordinate with all the other committees. And maybe sometime middle of the year, we do send out a survey and get every committee's input, send out a survey of what we're looking for from the community. I think the idea is that this shouldn't be top heavy. We should be, if I have an idea or something, you have an idea or something, sounds great, but is what the community really wants. Let's see what the community wants.
And there's nothing stopping you from generating revenue to do those projects anyways. I mean, you could go find ways of generating revenue.
That's another idea, right? It doesn't have to be like we were talking about added docks with the Lakes Committee, and doesn't have to be something that the community necessarily funds, but people who want those docks, maybe they're going to be the ones funding.
Okay, thank you. Chris, events and welcoming.
Sure. So welcoming hasn't met yet this month, but we'll meet hopefully before the end of the month. Events for winter programming, we're going to have another party on President's Day weekend. I'm hoping that we can add additional events to the winter calendar. Just looking for folks on the committee to step up on that. The last time you asked me, Patrick, to take programming to take a fitness program into the committee. Two things on that. First, we're immediately going to start adding one additional indoor exercise class led by Christine, who's our water aerobics instructor during the summer. That'll be during the off season only. We are still firming up the details, but that's going to get up and running real quick. So we'll have in the off season, we'll be doing 3 classes total a week, 2 yogas and 1 indoor class. And then within 2 weeks, I'm going to send out a survey to the community to gauge interest in additional fitness programming on the model of like clubs or interest groups, right? So if there's folks who want to have a running club, or as we get the entertainment open, like if there's enough interest for a standing pickup basketball game, something like that. I'm just going to see what folks are interested in doing together that doesn't require us to pay for programming, so we can supplement those paid classes. Working on a survey, the committee, I sent a draft of it to the committee. I'm waiting for feedback from them, and then we'll send it out to the membership.
That's great. Good stuff.
Questions for Chris?
Good job.
All right. Joel, I think yours is up next, but I think your meeting is Thursday. Okay. Finance committee will be meeting this coming Thursday. Brittany will circulate the Zoom link. Already did?
And just before you jump to the LCA,
Yes.
I just wanted to give everybody an update. Alan and I are working with the company about our merch catalog, online merch catalog. We're expecting to have that available to the community middle of March.
Fantastic.
We're in the process of picking out and finalizing what's going to be on there.
Cool.
One thing about the merch, and I don't know if it's necessarily with you or maybe with the staff, I think there should be a differential between residents and staff. So whether our staff shirts say staff underneath it, we get new things that say staff. I just think that it should be,
So it's not gonna
you
be
know,
that-
that your shirt's a resident and you're not a.
Different colors.
Okay.
Something. I don't know how we would.
Well,
do
maybe
that,
if
but I think it's a good idea too.
I would just
Get you an
suggest,
employee's edge.
I would just suggest maybe in the future, staff says staff.
That's just my.
That's a good point.
It's a really good point.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Lakes Community Alliance, Mike, are you on? Yeah. Mike sent yesterday morning, I'll just take. a
I'm
second.
on. I'm here.
Yeah, Mike sent yesterday morning, board members, an update to me, and apologies, Mike, I
didn't read it.
I biffed it and did not circulate it to everybody, so that's on me. But Mike can give an update on what's going on and what we need to hear.
Sure. The 2-page community report I submitted, it talks about Hamaspick, Avon Park, Kroger Road, and Route 17. I'd like to spend a couple of minutes talking about the Avon Park issue with respect to the sewer capacity. As part of the Avon Park project, the developer has requested sewer capacity from the Emerald Green Sewer District. And the concerns we have regarding the sewage flow is that, first of all, the developer and the town have dramatically underestimated the amount of capacity they will need in terms of sewer. They're talking about 4,000 gallons per day. The reality is, if you use the proper sources of data to look at this, we're looking at excess of 10,000 gallons per day of sewage capacity without looking at what peak flow might be. This will totally exceed the capacity of our sewer district. And the problem is, also the second problem is, the sewer plant we have was originally designed for residential and commercial usage, not light industrial. So until you know what kind of tenants you're going to have in the property, you can't determine what kind of flow you're going to have and whether or not the sewer equipment we have is capable of handling that flow. So what we're doing now is we're trying to organize a community vote. We have the ability to have a community vote to, in effect, say no on this project until they come back with further details. And the LCA is contacting Emerald Green residents. Emerald Green is the biggest user of this sewer district, and to inform them of the issues and get them to sign a petition to encourage a community vote. So that's the big issue right now that you should worry about, because it directly affects Emerald Green.
That's a good point, Michael. Especially as far as the sewer usage goes, it's a good perspective. I would imagine that the town board would have to already done the engineering on if the sewer can handle that type of capacity.
They have not done that, to my knowledge. Not reported that.
Yeah, and they know that they know they need to increase the capacity there.
Which would be an expense.
And if
for
we
the-
if we have to go back and rebuild the plant afterwards to handle this additional capacity or the type of capacity, we're all gonna pay this in terms of our sewer district fees. It's not gonna be just the Avon Park people. Once it's in place and it's incapable, we're gonna wind up having to pay for an upgrade of that sewer plant, and everybody in Emerald Green will pay a share. So right now,
And-
you're paying about $700 a year in terms of sewage fees. That's gonna go up dramatically to handle an increased capacity.
So I can add to Michael. So I've toured the facility more than once and I've spoken to Bill about this, Reaver. Delaware Engineering is currently doing a draft design that will eventually go up to bid. There was some grant money and stuff associated with that plan.
Right.
So I don't know how far along that design is. I'm waiting to hear back from the person that runs the plan that does that. But if, as far as I know, they're pretty well along in the design of the plan before Avon even existed. It was just to take into account the potential for Discovery Center, which is gonna have more flow and discharge than we have now, the restaurant, and then the houses we have now. It was really all it was designed for. So you would have to basically scrap that plan, redo all the flow data and start all over again and upgrade it. And you may at that point consider a different type of treatment system. So it could get quite expensive just from an engineering perspective to start over. Now, they do have the real estate, and I've talked to him at length for years about using that plant, because right now you pump all over the place. We spend anywhere from $80,000 to $100,000 in electricity just pumping sewage all over that place in the broken tanks and system.
Just to
Why wouldn't
maintain
that
right now.
cost,
Just right now, yeah.
why wouldn't that cost an additional cost, all additional costs go to the developer? Or is that the plan?
Well, I'm saying is the engineer, the developer, well, that, I don't know.
And that's part of the
You would-
planning board phase because.
But what I'm saying is the town slash us have already spent money with Delaware Engineering to develop a plan that will accommodate what we have.
I'm saying, I'm
Not adding.
plan, I was,
The rush job we're getting now from the town is to approve the extension without all these detailed plans, and then we'll deal with that later. That's ridiculous. We ought to have exactly those plans in place now. We don't know who the tenant is. We don't know what the real capacity is, and we ought to use real engineering standards to evaluate this, not some hocus pocus numbers.
and real cost studies with who's gonna pay for it.
Exactly.
Very, very inflated sewer district as it is.
Mhm.
And
It's, the tanks have rebar sticking out, the concrete's ugly, and then the main treatment system is called a sequencing batch reactor. That's what you use at like the throughway, where you have flows come in and out. Now, when you had the hospital and you had 10,000 from there, what they have now will not function. And it's already got phosphorus problems, which is why Davies Lake has issues and stuff, but that's the existing.
And they're
plan.
already
So
pumping.
we'd have to scrap that plan or significantly change it. All the money that's been spent by the town, and everybody else, and grant money or not,
Right.
will have to be totally started over again to add 10,000 of capacity. That's just flow. You don't know what's in there. So if it's industrial input, or you're having oils, or you're having metals.
Exactly.
True.
Is there any danger the town could lose its grant money if this doesn't happen in particular? Like, do they have timing milestones tied to?
I don't
grants?
have the grant in front of me. I've never seen it, but I know I've sent a lot
I
of
remember
stuff
it's like 5 or 6 million they announced, right?
Yeah,
Something
for several,
significant.
of several of the wastewater plants.
But that grant money is not intended to allow for the Avon Park project. It's just to add normal sewer capacity given our normal needs.
That was to update the sewer system because right now it's just the status quo is no good.
Yeah.
Correct.
So that this is well above and beyond.
Yes.
It's just infrastructure bill money, yeah.
And they still don't know who the tenant slash person may or may not be, so you can't predict a flow. How do you design as an engineer? I can tell you, if you don't tell me what's coming in, I can't tell you I can take it out and then send it over to Davies Lake properly if I don't know who that tenant is and how much flow is coming.
Yeah.
My last comment on the subject, by the way, is our estimates based on, are using warehouse data, which is how these standards exist. Standards do not exist for distribution centers, but if you look at other standards for distribution centers, they are generally 30 to 40% higher than warehouses, given the traffic volumes. So we're looking at a major change in terms of the sewer capacity needs. And the reality is this is going to change Emerald Green in terms of the fees people pay and the costs that we have to incur to make this work if it ever happens.
All right, Mike, thank you for the update. I assume there are no other questions?
Right, it's not, it's just the size of the equipment to add that is a lot, which means you're gonna need more staff to run that. So how are you gonna separate out what they pay versus what we pay? Because right now, there's like one guy, he comes in, does his tests, runs his machine, does his maintenance and leaves. He's not even there full 8 hours a day because he's over.
It's a
Double,
blend.
you're talking a lot more volume, a lot more equipment. Even if he does it by gravity, with the exception of recirculation, like I had suggested before with Bill, to do this, you're still gonna need more than one body to run this thing.
The logic would have, they should have their own sewer plant on premises. and discharge clean water.
It doesn't account for what he's sending. So it's an issue.
And the town's already put your sewer on your escrow at this point, so if it does go up, I mean,
Correct.
you're,
It's over $700 a year now in the escrow. You're gonna wind up looking at several $1,000s a year to make this work.
Wow, okay. Thank you for keeping us updated.
great research, thank you.
All right, any questions for Michael?
Well,
All right.
Michael, did you want to report on any of those other items that you had on your checklist?
No, there's a 2-page report that ultimately you should get that will describe what's
Okay.
going on. I think the Avon Park issue has always been the one that I'm most concerned about, and I still am most concerned about. The other thing I want to make you aware of that you may not be aware of is there's 2 new warehouses being planned on Kroger Road, which is an exit away from Emerald Green. They're talking about a 500,000 square foot warehouse and another 150,000 square foot warehouse. These are in the preliminary stage. We don't know yet if we're going to oppose them because they're not in our backyard, so to speak, but they're also going to have an effect on the roadways. Last but not least is there's talk about Route 17 being expanded into 3 lanes. Historically, when you expand roads from 2 to 3 lanes, all it does is increase traffic. Now, we support the interchange projects that are going on now, that the interchanges should be improved, but there's a question about whether or not the whole road should be a 3-lane highway back and forth. Unfortunately, it has the support of the governor, the business folks, so this is going to be another set of issues going forward the next couple of years.
Okay, and board members, I've now emailed you just now that report, so sorry I was late. But have it. All right, Mike, thank you.
My pleasure.
Okay, our next meeting is on February 19th at 9 AM, the 3rd Sunday of February. Does anybody have any new business before we go to executive session?
Just need to take community comment.
Yes. Questions from those in attendance here? Okay, none. I see Marcy, you have your hand up.
We just gotta unmute Marcy, or
Marcy, if you can unmute yourself?
Yes, I do. Thank you. So I just wanted to commend Tom Ganza and Michael Gutnick for the essential information. I'd like to request that the board distribute Mike Gutnick's message with all of that important content to the community of homeowners, because I think everybody has a right to and needs to know all of that. And I initially put my hand up for just a few comments about the entertainium. And one is that I think in light of a lot of points that people brought up, maybe we should require security on duty during a party. And I don't know the cost, but I'm guessing if $50 an hour would cover it, that there be a mandatory fee that is charged to people. And that way they can prevent any mischief or, somebody booking a party for 50 and then 200 show up. So that's a consideration. For cleaning, I think if we charged a cleaning deposit and then it's refunded if it's cleaned satisfactorily and it's used to pay for cleaning if it isn't. And then in terms of scheduling, it seems to me it should be on a case-by-case basis. If somebody books it for a late night Saturday and the next person requests a Sunday morning, I don't think that's feasible. If nobody books it for the Saturday night and somebody wants a Sunday morning activity, then, go ahead and calendar them in, and then there's no option for Saturday night. And that seems like a simple solution. So thank you for that. And I just want to commend Rich Brown and Tom Gans, because I think, there's so much important information that's happening regarding our lakes that we need to address it. Thank you.
Thanks, Marcy. Take all of those comments under advisement. Other questions from folks on the Zoom?
Looks like Rich has his hand up.
Oh, Rich, I'm sorry. Yeah, your hand
Rich got his hand up by accident.
hiding in the sky.
I missed a suggestion. Based upon the tragedy, which turned out well with the football and resuscitation situation, I was listening to a doctor's talk show, and they're recommending that all events and communities have an emergency plan and actually act out scenarios, what they would do for different emergencies. Since we have mass gathering events, we would stave off liability if we had plans for different areas and ways to manage them. I was present during the barbecue that we had or during the summer. And one of the doctor friend's wife fell, and there really was not emergency services available, even though she had a gash on the head and ripped open her knee. So it's something the board ought to consider. I don't know if that's oversight or specifically where, but it definitely affects the events committee. That's all. Thank you.
I think Rich just brought up a good point. We don't have defibrillators around, do we?
Yeah.
We do have. We do.
Yeah, yeah. I think Rich's point is
New
fair.
fitness center, I'll assume we'll have.
I'm going up there right now, so I'm at the pool. $130 a month.
Okay, so we should probably have one at the fitness center.
Yeah, we budgeted for that.
That was part of it.
Okay,
They're all pretty much set to go in all the buildings.
got it. Okay.
One of the things events could take under advisement would be to consider offering a first aid course.
Good idea.
Yeah, that's cool.
And then, I mean, from an events perspective, I mean, if we're talking about the rental agreement, we either need to require some minimal support over a certain amount of attendees, or we need to identify ourselves in writing that those persons will govern themselves at their own discretion. To Rich's point, we need to protect us.
Yeah, it's a good point, Rich. Thanks. I think we'll ask Earl's committee to look at sort of the overall policy for any emergency. Perhaps.
Okay. I'll add that to the agenda for our next meeting.
Thanks. I can't, sorry. I
Donna.
can't-
Donna Goldberg.
Donna,
Donna, we can't hear you.
just gotta unmute.
Do we have the ability? to-
Okay. Hi, thanks. And one small thing first to follow up with Rich Brown said, years ago, the community offered a free CPR class. It was 2 or 3 sessions maybe, and it didn't cost anything. I don't know if who gives it, the Red Cross or whomever, and I don't think they charge for it. So following up on what Rich said, maybe that would be a good idea to see if we could reconvene one during
Yeah.
the summer.
Chris and the events committee has offered to do that.
I'll also
What-
take it a step
what's-
further, since we don't have lifeguards in the summer, we might want to do something like that with the American Red Cross.
Once we have,
Certification.
we've already have in place for CPR class and AED training. Once our buildings are all up and running and we have a place
Okay.
to meet.
And then
we have
even
a-
come October, you could do fire safety month and invite the fire department to do activities.
Sorry, I might have missed what you just said. Do the lifeguards have, do they get, the not lifeguards, do they get?
There, we
training on,
have no lifeguards, they're pool attendants.
The pool attendants, are they trained on CPR and on how to use the AEDs?
No, we may be able to give that to the HR committee if they require that.
I think if recognizing the responsibility.
The other thing I wanted to mention on a different note is I had spoken to Michael in the office, I guess, 2 weeks ago. And it will be good weather again. And, I had misunderstood. The newer tennis courts were not actually redone, but just refinished on top because there was a significant crack in one of the courts. There's grass growing out of it. They weren't resurfaced that long ago. And I want to know if we have any
Recourse.
guarantee or, it shouldn't have happened so soon after the court was resurfaced.
That is, the court you're talking about is the court closer to the parking lot, which is, you guys refer that to the newer court. That is the older court. The court closer to the dog park is a brand new court. The older court has some cracks over every couple of years. They crack. We have to have a company come in and seal them and recoat them. In the springtime, we will get a price on that and present it to you guys to repair. Usually that would come out of one of the reserves to take care of that, the repair reserve or the repair reserve, or even in-house repairs.
Unfortunately, Don, I don't think you have a lot of call for action on them, and we kind of dealing with the freeze thaw. Concrete tends to come apart, looking at springtime up again, so you probably see more cracks. So I don't know that.
You know, as soon as those courts were done, I took photographs and sent them to the office. There were puddles. So that means and whoever did it did not grade it correctly. So I don't know if we want to go back to the same company or whatever who did it the last time, because I think they did a very inferior job.
I'm sure that company is well out of business.
I mean, this was only 2 years ago.
That was the resurfacing. They just resurfaced, repainted, and repaired the cracks. They didn't do anything with the surfacing of the base of the court, the blacktop. That nothing has been done with that.
Are we being penny wise and pound foolish and just, you know, trying to put Band-Aids on it?
I believe that most of the time that has to do with the cost of repairing to doing a new surface. The other court that was worse, that is now new, that cost us about $90,000 to do that. So
That was then.
well, that was 2 years ago,
Yeah.
3 years ago.
So up now.
Yeah, blacktop's a little bit more money now. A lot of the problem with those courts, both courts, is they never, the base was never done right. The newer court, now the base is done right. The older court, the base isn't done right. And if you don't have a proper base, then you keep getting the cracks and things that move on. But we will look at it in the springtime, probably sometime in March. They usually come in and they'll measure it out, and then I'll present a proposal to the board. We can get, the company that did that was out of, they were out of Jersey. Or Albany.
Okay.
But we'll
get that sorted out, Donna.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Long range planner.
Again, I just can't see.
Nita.
Nina?
Nita.
Sorry, I just can't see that well.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Ken?
Hi. So I know that there were issues that were referred to the executive board with HR. I'm wondering whether the community will ever hear about the resolution of some of those things. Salary, health insurance. I didn't know we paid Christmas bonuses. I'm just curious whether we're going to hear any resolution of any of those issues.
So you'll certainly hear about them in terms of where they appear in the budget. Specific individual employees' compensation, I don't believe they like.
Well, I'm really talking about like health insurance. We pay total health insurance. Is that going to continue? Is that going to change?
Well, I don't expect that to change, or the costs around that, and the terms of the plan. I certainly think everyone in the community will hear about and know about. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Seeing none, thank you all for your time. We're going to not adjourn the meeting because we do have 2 items. Thank you, Ellen, for executive session. So
See you later.
we're going to shut down the Zoom, but we'll keep board members here and adjourn shortly after that. Thank you, everybody.
Carl, hang out.
Bye all.
Oh yeah, sorry, we're not going to discontinue.
And if Arthur's on here.
Thank you for not forgetting about me, Mr. President.
Do I stop recording?
Yes.